Today we are looking at three types of word problems. The first one is called direct, and your equation is y equals k times x. Y is directly proportional to x. For this problem, an example could be if k is a constant, which it will be in all three types, then it determines how many of x you have. So for example, if you make $10 an hour at Chick-fil-A and x is the number of hours you work, then y will be the total take-home pay you get. So the next one is joint, which is y equals k times x times z. So this one just has another dimension to it, but y varies jointly as x and z, and you still have k, your constant. You will have a constant in every problem. The last one is inverse variation, which is y equals k over x. Y is inversely proportional to x. So this one has division. This could be an example like if you have however many yard people you have working varies inversely with the number of hours it will take to complete the yard work. The more workers you have, the less time it will take to finish the yard. So that's an inverse variation example. First, we need to look at some of these problems. I'm going to do just the right-hand column and determine which one it is. It says determine if it's direct, joint, or inverse and identify the constant. So for number one, this is going to be inverse variation since we have division, and your constant is 24. Your constant will always be on top. For number four, we need to first solve for y. So we get y equals 1/3 x. This one is actually direct variation with your constant 1/3. Number two, we're going to multiply by 3/4 on both sides to get our y alone. So we'll get y equals 3/4 xz, which is our joint variation. Constant is 3/4. Last one, dividing by 2. This one is joint with constant equal to 1/2. Some of these are confusing because you have to solve for your variable on the left-hand side and then make sure you write the fraction properly. All right, let's do a few examples of direct to start with. Number one, r is directly proportional to the square of s. So first you go in order. We won't always just have the x and the y. So r is directly proportional to the square of s. So we have our k and then the square of s. So for these, you always want to just read the first part. R is 72 and s is 12. So step one is to always solve for the constant. So we plug in our r. We don't know the constant, but we know s is 12. So we get 72 equals k times 144. You divide by 144, and k equals 1/2, because 72 divided by 144 is 1/2. Then on the second step, there's always two steps. You use your same equation that you came up with based on the variables in the problem, and now you read the rest of the problem. Find r when s equals 8. So we have k and we have s, and it says find r. We don't know r. So then you just plug in everything else, and you get r equals 1/2 times 64, or 64 divided by 2. R is 32, and that's your final answer for number 10. If I just asked you what the constant is, your answer is 1/2. Let's look at number 11 because this is more of a word problem. So again, the dollar amount D, they give you the variables here, that Megan earns varies directly, so that tells us we'll have our multiplication with the number of hours she works, H. Just read the first part. We're always solving for the constant, the k. In her paycheck, she earned $148.50 working 18 hours. So I plug in $148.50 for the dollar amount. We don't know the constant, and the hours will be 18. All right, $148.50 divided by 18. Whatever we do to this side to cancel it, we have to do to this side. So k is 825 for our constant. Step 2, write down your equation again, then read the rest of the problem. Her next paycheck is $90.75. How many hours did she work? So we don't know the hours, but we do know the dollar amount, and we do know the constant. So solving for H, divide by your 825, and we get 90.75 divided by 825, and the number of hours she worked is 11 hours. The word problems will have some units. Number 10 does not have units because they just gave us letters. All right, let's look at our next one. Joint variation. Again, the joint variation is going to be y equals k times x times z. We will have different variables for each problem though, so let's try number 12 to start. P varies jointly as q and the cube of r, so q and r cubed. Here are our new variables, and then we just read the first part and solve for k, and then we'll read the little last part at the end. So P is 270, of course we don't know k, Q is 6, and R is 3. So we have 3 cubed is 27 times 6 is 162. And then we're going to divide by 162 on both sides to get our K. So I'm going to round. K is 1.67. Then on the second step, using your same equation, now we can read the last part of the sentence. Find P when Q is 3 and R is 5. So we don't know P. We do have K. Q is 3. R is 5. 5 cubed actually. So that one we can just type in straight across as is. And I got about 625. No units. For number 13, I'll help you set it up. It says for Tom's savings account, the interest earns varies jointly. So the interest earns varies jointly. I will put I with the principal and the amount of time in years. So equals K times the principal and the amount of time in years T. If you used P for principal and then maybe A for the amount of time, that's okay, just so you know how to plug in. So again, you'll start and you'll just read the first one, 3 years with 1,200 and 144 in interest. So he's starting with 1,200, that's going to be the principal. So go ahead and plug in for these three, solve for K, then read the rest of the sentence using the constant. The last one we looked at was the inverse variation. So the inverse has the division. So for this one, we'll set it up as m is inversely proportional to the square root of n. So square root of n. When m is 27 and n is 16, we will solve for the constant. We will not read the rest of the sentence until we have the constant, which is going to be 27 times 4. That's 4, and then you multiply by 4 on both sides. And your constant is 108. Then step 2, using our same equation, we plug in and it says find m when n is 64. So we don't know m, we know our constant, and n is 64. So we have 108 divided by the square root of 64, and m is 13.5. Two-step problems here. Let me help you set up number 15 and then I'll have you finish it. You always read the first sentence and the letters should go in order. So the time it takes Adam to drive to Disney World. So for this whole first expression, I'm just going to put T. Varies inversely, there's our key word. I know it's division with his average rate of speed. Again, I'm just going to put S. You might put A. either one is fine. Okay, then it takes 10.8 hours at a speed of 50 miles per hour. Plug those in and solve for K, and then read the rest of your sentence. We are not going to do the combination variation, which involves both joint and direct in one sentence. So you can skip problems like that. Go ahead and try a few that we didn't get to and check the answer key. Thank you.